Listen to me now, for I speak a truth that will wound you, and I offer no comfort, no gentle hand to ease the sting. I have watched you, you bearers of trauma, you keepers of wounds, and I have seen what you hide even from yourselves. You do not want to heal. You have built a throne from your suffering, stone by stone, each injury carefully placed, each violation cataloged and preserved like sacred relics in a temple to your own powerlessness. And from this throne you rule not through strength, but through the terrible authority that modern life grants to the damaged. Tell me, when did your pain become your crown? When did the worst thing that happened to you become the most important thing about you? I, who have stared into the abyss, who have known suffering that would break lesser spirits, who have transformed my own torment into philosophy, I say to you, your suffering is not sacred. It grants you nothing. It proves nothing. And the reverence you demand for it, the unquestionable righteousness you claim because of it, is the most insidious form of weakness I have yet witnessed in your age. The stakes? Your very soul. Each morning you wake and choose. Will you be the wound, or will you be the wound that overcame itself? Will you create, or will you forever demand reparation for the crime of existence? The heights await, but first, you must descend from that throne of thorns you mistake for a mountain peak. I watch you gather in your support groups, your online communities, your spaces of safety, and I see something peculiar. You speak of healing. Yes, you use the language of recovery, of processing, of moving forward. But look closer at what you do. You rehearse your suffering. You perfect the narrative of your damage. You compete, though you would deny it, for who has been most grievously harmed. You have discovered something intoxicating. In this age, suffering grants authority. The damaged cannot be questioned. The traumatized cannot be challenged. You have learned to wield your wounds like weapons, to silence any criticism with a simple incantation. You don't know what I've been through, and you are right, I don't. But I know what you have become. I know the fortress you have built from your pain, and I know that you guard it more fiercely than any conqueror ever guarded his spoils. The currency of attention. Your trauma grants you an audience. People must listen when you speak from your wounds. They must be gentle, accommodating, endlessly patient. Remove the trauma, and what happens to that attention? The shield of unaccountability. I'm working on myself. I'm healing. I'm not ready yet. How many years can you hide behind these phrases? How many responsibilities can you defer? How many relationships can you damage? How many opportunities can you refuse? All because you are still healing. The identity crisis. You speak of wanting to move beyond your trauma, but I ask you, who would you be without it? You have organized your entire existence around this injury. Your friendships are with fellow sufferers. Your daily rituals revolve around managing your damage. Your very sense of self is constructed on the foundation of what was done to you. Remove that foundation, and you face the terrifying question, what am I? Here is what you do not want to hear. You have made a pact with your suffering. In exchange for the power, it grants you the moral authority, the protection from criticism, the excuse for all your failures and limitations. You have agreed never to truly overcome it. You tend your wound like a garden, ensuring it never fully closes. Each dawn you reopen it, just enough to remind yourself and others, I am damaged, I am special, I am beyond your judgment. This is the slavery of the victim. You have traded the terrifying freedom of the strong for the comfortable prison of the weak, and you call it honoring your journey. You call it being authentic about your struggles. but I call it what it is. Resentment, the poison of the powerless who cannot create and so must accuse, who cannot build and so must demand, who cannot ascend and so must drag others down to their level. Your wound has become your identity, and an identity, once established, must be defended. You do not seek healing, you seek validation for remaining broken. But let us go deeper into this mechanism, for it is subtle, and you have perfected it beyond even your own awareness. You have discovered the paradox of modern morality. Weakness is power. Victimhood is authority. The more damage you can claim, the more reality itself must bend to accommodate you. Watch how you operate. Someone challenges you, disagrees with your perspective, questions your behavior, and what do? You do not meet them in honest combat. You do not defend your position with strength. No, you retreat to your wound. You're triggering me. This isn't a safe space for me. You're causing harm. The conversation ends, not because you were right, but because you bled on command. This is the genius of weaponized suffering. It cannot be defeated. How does one argue against pain? How does one critique the injured without becoming the injurer? You have found the perfect shield, and you know it. But observe what this does to you. Every relationship becomes a battlefield where you must establish your victimhood to maintain power. You cannot simply be wrong, you must be wronged. You cannot simply lose an argument, you must be attacked. Every criticism becomes an assault. Every disagreement becomes abuse. Every moment of discomfort becomes trauma. Do you see what you have done? You have made yourself so fragile that reality itself becomes your enemy, and in response, you do not strengthen yourself. You demand that reality be made softer. You require the world to whisper around you, to tiptoe through its own existence so as not to disturb your eternal convalescence. And here is the terrible secret. You have imprisoned yourself more thoroughly than any oppressor ever could. For the oppressor could only control your circumstances, but you have surrendered your very capacity to grow, to change, to overcome. I say to you, this is not healing. This is calcification. You are not recovering. You are entombing yourself in your own pain, building a sarcophagus of suffering and calling it a sanctuary. True strength terrifies you, because true strength would require you to let go of the very thing that makes you special. It would require you to become responsible not just for your future, but for your present response to your past. And responsibility is the heaviest weight of all. How much lighter to remain the victim, forever waiting for the world to repair what it broke, forever justified in your stagnation because someone else made you this way. Now I touch upon something you will hate me for saying, but truth cares nothing for your hatred. You are addicted to your powerlessness. Like any addiction, it provides a temporary relief, the relief of having no agency, no responsibility, no requirement to become anything more than you are. And like any addiction, it requires increasing doses to maintain the same effect. Yesterday's trauma is not enough. You must find new violations, new offenses, new evidence of your victimhood. The world must be reinterpreted through the lens of your damage. Every slight becomes a wound. Every oversight becomes abandonment. Every human imperfection becomes abuse. Watch yourself carefully. Do you feel a strange excitement when you discover new ways you've been wronged? Do you subtly escalate stories of your suffering when others share theirs? Do you feel threatened when fellow victims begin to truly heal and move beyond their trauma? Do you find yourself most alive when discussing your damage? These are not rhetorical questions. Answer them honestly in the privacy of your own consciousness. Because your addiction operates in the shadows, the moment you shine light upon it, you risk losing it, and losing it terrifies you. Because underneath the victim identity, underneath the wound you've made sacred, underneath the fortress of your suffering, there is a question you cannot answer. Who am I when I am not broken? This is why you sabotage your own healing. Not consciously, perhaps, but I see the pattern. Each time you approach wholeness, each time you glimpse your own strength, each time you begin to create rather than accuse, something happens. A setback, a trigger, a new trauma, and you return with relief to familiar ground, revelation. Here is what no therapist will tell you, what no support group will speak aloud. Some of you do not want to heal. You want to be comfortable in your brokenness. You want others to accept your limitation as permanent, your stagnation as sacred, your refusal to grow as a form of self-care. But I am not your therapist. I am not here to make you comfortable. I am here to tell you that you are capable of infinitely more than this. That every day you spend on that throne of wounds is a day you could have spent creating, building, becoming. That your suffering, real as it was, painful as it remains, is not the most interesting thing about you unless you insist on making it so. So what do I demand of you? You hope I will give you a gentler path, a softer way forward. I will not. I offer you only this, the terrifying freedom of responsibility. When you cease to derive your identity from pain, when you step down from that throne of wounds, when you refuse the comfortable authority of victimhood, you discover something that will shake you to your foundation. You discover that you are responsible, not for what happened to you, but for what you do with it. Not for the injury, but for the infection you've allowed to spread. Not for being broken, but for refusing to heal. This responsibility is not punishment, it is power. The power to create rather than accuse. Imagine waking each morning not asking, what has the world taken from me? But what will I make today? Your energy, currently spent on maintaining your victim narrative, redirected toward building something beautiful, something strong, something yours, the power to connect rather than compete. Imagine relationships where you do not need to establish that you have suffered more, where you can witness another's pain without feeling threatened, where intimacy is built on shared strength rather than shared weakness, the power to grow rather than guard. Imagine encountering difficulty not as evidence of your continued victimhood, but as opportunity for your continued development. Each challenge becomes a chance to prove to yourself, I am stronger than I thought. But I will not lie to you about the cost. This transformation requires you to give up the very things you have come to depend upon. The attention that comes automatically to the wounded, the lowered expectations that allow you to avoid risk, the moral high ground that requires no actual achievement, the community bonded by shared resentment rather than shared creation. You must become ordinary again before you can become extraordinary. You must descend from your throne of wounds and walk among the striving, the failing, the trying, all those who have no excuse but their own will for why they are or are not what they wish to be. This is the path of the strong, to take what broke you and forge it into what makes you. Not to deny your suffering, not to minimize your pain, but to refuse to let it be the final word written about you. I have known suffering, physical, psychological, spiritual. I have been betrayed, dismissed, mocked, alone, and I made a choice. I would not let those who harmed me determine what I became. I would not grant them that final victory. I would take the very pain they inflicted and transform it into philosophy, into art, into a hammer that shatters comfortable lies. You can do the same. Or you can remain on your throne of wounds, forever powerful in your powerlessness. forever right in your resentment, forever special in your suffering, and forever small. I have shown you the mirror, and I know you do not like what you see. Good. Discomfort is the beginning of transformation. You stand now at a crossroads, though you have stood here many times before. The difference is that now you know what you are choosing. The innocence of unconsciousness has been stripped from you. One path. You return to your throne. You gather your wounds around you like armor. You continue to demand that the world heal you, fix you, accommodate you. You remain the protagonist of your own tragedy, forever waiting for an apology that will justify your stagnation. This path is comfortable. This path is familiar. This path is death masquerading as safety. The other path, you step down. You shoulder the terrible weight of responsibility for your own becoming. You take your wounds real, justified, undeniable, and you refuse to let them be the story's end. You create. You build. You overcome. Not because you deny what happened, but because you refuse to let it be more powerful than what happens next. This path is terrifying. This path offers no guarantee. This path is life. I cannot choose for you, but I can tell you this. I have never met anyone who chose the path of responsibility and later wished they had remained a victim. But I have met countless people who cling to their wounds and wonder, in the dark hours of the night, whether their suffering has become their prison. Your pain was real. What you do with it is yours to decide. Begin, create, overcome, or return to your throne and wonder, decades from now, what you might have built if you had been brave enough to heal. The wound is there. It will always be there, in some form. But it does not have to be who you are. It can be the soil from which something stronger grows, or it can be the grave where your potential is buried. You already know which you have chosen. The question is, will you finally admit it?